Hello and welcome. I am your host, Sean Wilson, and I want to welcome all of you listeners to our very first special episode of the Everything is Fine podcast's special series, How Are You? As we've explained several times before on our main show, the How Are You podcast segments are going to be a bit shorter, as you can probably tell from the timestamps of this video, and our main goal is one of us is going to be presenting a topic, while the other person gets a week off. Summer is a busy time for me and Matt, and the two of us both have actual day jobs that actually pay us. And as much as we love this show, we do have jobs, and need to make sure that we're actually surviving over the summer. Last episode on the main podcast, we talked about Marvel, and I lost our coin flip to see who goes first in this little series, and we got to see that Matt gets to take the first week off from production. So, here I am. And I am going to be presenting a very special topic to you guys today. On the last episode of the podcast, I said that the day after it came out, I would be putting out a little viewer submission box on our Instagram story, and I asked you guys simply for, what do you want to hear us talk about on these little listener essays that we're putting together? We said they'd be a little bit more focused, they'd have a better kind of coherent system to them, a little bit more scripted than our main podcast, where we just go on and talk about the main topic, we refresh ourselves, and we go in with just our opinions, maybe a sticky note or two of notes, and give you guys our fresh opinions from the hip. Here, though, we've put together a whole production. And I asked you guys for some ideas, and I got a lot of great ideas, and Matt saw some of those ideas and thought, oh, maybe I will take some of those from you. So, we thank you for your submissions. But I chose one that was very interesting. A viewer came to me and suggested, why don't you talk about your job? And I thought to myself, that's a neat idea. I work for the USPS, and I work as an ARC, which is essentially I deliver Amazon packages, and I take care of extra parcel runs, and I sort mail before it goes out. And that's neat and all, but I didn't think it was a good idea to talk about here on this show. After all, everyone cares about the mailman, but it's not pop culture. It's just our way of life. And then I thought, what if I take it too far and I keep that same idea? So I have been putting together, for the past week, a project of my own. I have taken my less than qualified authority as the lowest possible member of the Postal Service of the United States of America, as an ARC carrier, and applied that to fictional post services. What I have for you guys today is I have found the greatest functioning fictional postal service in all of mainstream pop culture. And I have not just found the mainstream number one title champion, I have found several examples from the worst possible to the best. And how have I rated these? How have I quantified this? What authority do I have as the lowest possible postal grunt to quantify the efforts made by all of these different services? I don't. What I did find, however, is the Universal Postal Union, which is a real organization, last year in 2020, during the height of the pandemic, decided to do a quality control check on all 170 of the world's working national postal systems. And they applied them to a rating scale with different scores and different points in different categories. So I have taken that scale and applied it in a simplified and more basic way to fictional postal services. To describe a little bit about the process and the rules for tonight's episode, the Universal Postal Union ranks every single postal service into four main categories on a scale of roughly 25 points. Those four categories are reliability. Does the service get the mail to the recipient in a consistent and timely fashion? Reach. Is the service accessible to individuals in all areas of the world in question? Relevance. Is the service a commonly used part of the society it serves? And resilience. Does the service respond well to crisis, and is it able to continue its services in the face of adversity, as well as being diverse in its services? These four categories make up the entire grading system. To To give you a bit of a retrospective so you can actually compare what constitutes good according to this ranking, the United States' USPS, the organization for which I am employed at, scores an 83.5. Now, I know that everyone who went through the American education system thinks that is not good. However, the actual tiers that the Postal Union describes as bad to good is anything below 15 is borderline struggling and there is a major crisis on our hands. 15 to 35 is lower than the median of what they should be doing, but they're getting there. 35 to 60 is actually average. Pretty good, not great. It just does its job. It might have some problems, but it's working to fix that. And anything above a 60 is actually the top 20th percentile of the entire world's services. I have mentioned that the USPS got an 83.5. Switzerland got a perfect 100, the overachievers that they are. So essentially, we're not just trying to find the greatest postal service in all of main pop culture mainstream fiction. We're also just trying to find something that's as good as Switzerland, on a fictional standpoint. So with our rules established, I have compiled a list of some of the most popular franchises in pop culture, along with a few lesser known but notable properties that contain interesting examples that are worthy of note. As a disclaimer, we are also not examining mail services from franchises that take place on Earth or Earth-like worlds. Similar examples would be the mailmen from any sitcom that takes place on Earth, like Cheers or Seinfeld, or something similar, like The Simpsons, which is implied to be Earth, or most superhero universes, as there are well-known and well-loved fictional mailmen for groups like the Fantastic Four and the Avengers and so on and so forth, but that's Earth. We already know how good Earth's postal services are. You can go read that entire article for yourself to see my point. So, I will say, though, before I get going, I will be giving the EIF Good Mailman Award to S.D. Kluger of the Santa Claus is Coming to Town special, from Rankin Bass's Christmas specials. Random, I know, but he insists on delivering mail on Christmas in a snowmobile and stops to answer children's questions, despite the excruciating amount of pain it must cause him to do so, because I know what it's like to be stopped on my mail route, and it is a terrible, terrible, rage-inducing anger. So I have to give him our honorary award for Good Mailman, because he must have the patience of a saint. But, now with all of that housekeeping taken care of, we can actually get into discussing our examples. I will start from worst possible example that I found, and go all the way to our number one best fictional post office recipient award recipient. Now, of course, I may have missed a few examples. Feel free to comment if you're listening on YouTube, or send us, the average DM text to the Instagram, or let us know that if you have a fictional post service that you would have liked to have seen. Because believe me, it was hard to find examples. Most of these I had to pull out of my own memory, and my Google search history now looks extremely weird because it's nothing but insert fictional universe post office, or insert fictional universe delivery systems, or efficiency of mail in fictional universe. So I'm now getting just that kind of filler words in my Google searches, which is going to take a long time to fix. But without further ado, our recipient for the worst postal service that I could find in fictional mail efficiency goes to the Invader Zim franchise. I love Invader Zim. It's a fantastic little cartoon that was canceled way too soon on Nickelodeon in the early 2000s. And it has the worst mail system I have ever seen. It only makes a very brief appearance, but brief enough to know how terrible it is. So, in Invader Zim, they have a mail system that has already been conquered by the titular character Zim's empire he serves, the Urkin Empire. They're basically aliens that want to take over the entirety of the universe, just so they can have fun with it. The Tallus, the almighty Tallus, the leaders of the Urkin Armada, don't really seem to take their conquest all that seriously, and kind of use grunts like Zim as cannon fodder on most worlds they want to conquer. One of these worlds that they have conquered is, I kid you not, Conveyor Belt Planet. which is essentially a giant FedEx factory. And it only makes one appearance in one episode towards the end of the season, at the end of the series run, and it is when a postal worker switches the package labeling on two different packages. That one is supposed to be sent to Zim, and it's full of malfunctioning Gur robots, as a prank sent by the almighty Tallus, because they hate his guts. And the other is an actual mechanized weapon suit called the Mega Doomer that is supposed to go to one of the more favorable Irken grunts that the almighty Tallus actually like. The rest of the episode's plot is moot at this point because the postal worker in question decides to rebel against the Irken Empire by switching these two postal services and claims that he will retake his planet one mail fraud at a time. He has not only completely disregarded everything about his job, but he also has committed mail fraud, which is a federal crime. Most likely a federal crime in almost every fictional universe that has a mail system. As far as a score goes, I am giving Conveyor Belt Planet a 25, and all 25 of those points are only in the reach category, because they were able to send two different packages to do different ends of the observable universe, one of which goes to a planet that was only recently discovered, and there is no way they efficiently mapped a GPS system coordinate to Earth in that short a time. There's no way. I've been dealing with scanners at my job that have not been updated in 25 years for their GPSs. There's no way they did it that fast, but somehow they did, so I'm giving all 25 points that it gets in reach alone. Everything else scored a 0. Next up, we have Star Wars. The entirety of the Star Wars franchise gets a very low score as well. I am tying them with Invader Zim. They also got a 25. However, they got it in a much more fair light. See, Star Wars doesn't just have a singular postal service. It has a variety of different transport companies, is what they are called. And about 95% of them are actually just fronts for illegal crime dens, or they were strong-armed into being used as private, unpaid workforces by the Empire at some point in their lifespan. Only 5% of these companies actually serve as actual mail services that transport goods, cargo, weapons, you name it. And that's not a good thing. With so low of an actual trustable mail service available to the general public of the Star Wars galaxy, I am giving it a score of 25. It gets a 10 in reach, and it gets a 5 in the other three categories. Only 10 in reach, yes, because it does cover the entirety of its galaxy, but it's mainly going to criminals or Empire loyalists, not really the common people, and only rarely the common people, which is what the mail is for. So Star Wars also ties for last. So above them, the third from the lowest example is the Elder Scrolls franchise. I'm giving the Elder Scrolls franchise a 30 in an overall score. And that is split between 20 in reach, 5 in relevance, 5 in resilience, and a 0 in relevance. Yes, it's resilient to a point because, the Dragonborn or anyone that is the protagonist of these games is running around actually taking care of problems in the land, causing general chaos from any threats that this world experiences on the regular every couple of decades. You see letters all the time, so there must be mailmen around, maybe. You find them all over the place, too. You find them in the deepest caves. You find them in the richest mansions. You find them on the side of the road sometimes. So they're all over the place. Why is it score so low? Have you ever played an Elder Scrolls game and seen a delivery boy or a mailman or someone who is actually carrying letters? The only times you get letters are when they're given to you by NPCs that, oh, you should read this note, or you kill an NPC that's attacking you and they have a note on them that was addressing you, but not for you. You never see someone actually wander up and say, "Oh, hi, this is for you." Protagonist, you never see that. It's barely used, yet it should exist. We just never see them. And we all know that most of us, when we play The Elder Scrolls, we don't sleep. In-game. So we should see them. But no, alas, there is not a single mail carrier in all of the Elder Scrolls franchise that has ever been captured on screen. So I'm giving it a 30. Fourth on our list is the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. I love these games. They're cute. They're a nice little way to put a good spin on the Pokemon franchise. I remember my first experiences being in the Explorers of Time game that came out for the DS probably, I think, a decade or so ago, a little bit over. And I remember it was so much fun, and you got all these fun items, and you explored these different dungeons that are all around the fictional world of that Pokemon Mystery Dungeon setting. And mail, while interesting as a mechanic, isn't that great. The Wonder Mail system is used mainly to get help for rescue teams that have lost their way in dungeons, which they're somehow able to send a letter from the middle of nowhere, or the darkest cave, or mountains, or in some cases, literal towers and other planes of existence, and it somehow reaches the guild hall. But you can't send any outgoing mail from the guild halls in that franchise. You just get letters. You get wanted posters through the mail. You get help letters. You get the rescue team, SOS signals. But you don't send anything from the guild. You never see outgoing mail. You always just get incoming mail. And it's just weird and unique, because if letters are that important, why are they only going in one direction? I get it. You're going out and saving them, but there is a two-way street here. So essentially, with all of that information said about how little in relevance and little in reliability it is, I'm giving it the scores of 10 in relevance, 10 in reliability, 15 in resilience, and 5 in reach, giving an overall score of 40. Fifth in our list is the Pokemon main series, right above the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. We have the Postmaster system, which you also don't see a lot of. It's implied that there are mail carrier Pokemon that help the actual trainers and humans in this main series of Pokemon, but you don't see them, ever. The most you get is when you get event codes or special codes from GameStop back in the day when you pre-ordered the games, or you went to events or cons and they gave you a code to redeem, and you got to redeem it for items or a legendary Pokemon or a variant of a Pokemon of some type, and you got always, as soon as you entered that code, in-game universe, the next time you went to a Pokemon Center, there was a mail carrier there with your package, with your Pokemon in it, with your item in it, whatever you redeemed your code for. So it's reliable, but not entirely. See, you never really see delivery Pokemon outside of the Poké Center. And you, the player, the trainer in almost every single region, is asked to deliver items a lot, for a lot of different people, sometimes across the entire region. There should be a postal service here. Why are they not doing it? Why are most strangers happy with just giving their mail to some random kid who doesn't know what he's doing by himself with a handful of Pokemon? It's a little weird, and it means people are a bit desperate. So in its scores, I give it a 20 in reliability, a 15 in resilience, a 15 in reach, and a 0 in relevance, giving an overall score of 50. Above that, in 6th, is The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. A very good postman is found in this game. He's all over the place. You can find him in most dungeons. You can find him in most back roads of Hyrule in this iteration. He can get anywhere, and you see him all over the place. But he's human. He's one of the more human examples of postman on this list, and it's not a great thing for him. For just as reliable as he is, and he gives you items and stops you at mailboxes, and even recognizes Link when he's in his wolf form, and still presents his mail to the wolf version of him, you can find him in some weird spots, which only make you question things. For instance, when you find him in the Zora domain, he's hopelessly confused because he's trying to figure out who to deliver a letter to that is entitled Mr. Zora. Everyone there's a Zora. He's reasonably confused, but that's partially him not understanding which Zora, partially incorrect mail filing by the client, which I have seen way too many times. So I can't blame him for that. But then you get him in actual bad situations where you find him in someone's barn at one point just hanging out. That's trespassing. You also see him at one point drying mail that he dropped in a pond on his delivery route before he delivers it. You damaged that. That's some write-up right there. So, while he's a bit clumsy and not the greatest at his job, he does his best, so I gave the Twilight Princess Mailman a 20 in reach, because he's all over Hyrule, a 15 in resilience, because Link is actively saving Hyrule from threats, a 10 in reliability, and a 5 in relevance, giving him an overall score of 50. Now, before I break into the upper tier of efficiency when it comes to fictional postal services, I want to take a brief minute to discuss bird-based mail systems. We all know what I'm talking about. Someone attaches a letter to a bird, it flies off, and magically knows who it's getting that letter to, or getting that package to. They somehow get it, or sometimes they don't for plot relevance, and then they send the bird back. I'm not going to go over all of these examples. I'm just kind of going to lump them all together because it's basically the same function with some slight modifications, but notable examples of bird-based mail that I've found in pop culture have been the Harry Potter Owls system, the Game of Thrones Ravens system, any bird from Lord of the Rings, and the Fire Nation Hawks from Avatar: The Last Airbender. They're all birds that carry mail. In Harry Potter's case, they carry full-on parcels, like brooms and other things like that. And for the other ones, not so much. They're carrying just letters. But the problem with bird-based mail is that, yes, it reaches all of the realm, but it might not go overseas. Yes, it might be able to magically track down whoever needs the parcel the bird has been attached to, but it's not reliable all the time. There are scenes in Avatar where Sokka, after he acquires his own pet Fire Nation Hawk, can barely get it to listen to him before it just flies off and leaves him forever. I get it, he's Water Tribe, but that bird should be trained by now to deliver mail. He bought it as a carrier hawk. There are some pretty bad examples of owls in the Harry Potter universe. Ron's owl was never reliable. Yeah, and also think of it, it wasn't just owls delivering the mail. Some people had cats do it. I love cats. I'm a cat person. You can't get a cat to deliver a parcel. That is impossible. And think about people like Neville who brought a frog. How long must that take? Think about that. I'm giving all bird-based, or in this case animal-based, systems of mail a generic 50. It doesn't really matter how I spread it out over the 4 categories. They're good enough for their worlds, but they're definitely not top-tier performance. You can sabotage a bird pretty easy. Or sometimes you just get a bad bird. So, yeah, I'm giving all bird-based mail a 50. Now on to the beginning of the upper tier of fictional mail systems. Coming in at 8th on our list, because I used 7th place for all the bird-based mail, at 8th on our list for the 8th highest is the Kirby franchise. And specifically, I'm calling out the Cappy Town mail system. For those of you who don't know, Kirby had a cartoon that used to run on Saturday mornings. And I have seen all of this cartoon. And it's pretty good. I've also played several of the Kirby games, and you get some generic like mail systems in them, but they're not really noticeable or present too much. They show up once or twice, as most of the time a gag, so I don't take them as my example I want to pull here. But if you watch the Kirby cartoon, which is canon mostly according to its creator, Melman the Mailman's actually pretty good at his job. The Postal Service in Cappytown is run by one single Cappy citizen named Melman. He is an elderly Cappy who not only has every address in Cappytown and the surrounding rural area memorized by and knows the routes by heart, he gets the job done every day, while Kirby and his friends basically destroy the place. He's also been a victim of several head-on collisions while driving around and delivering the mail, and always by the next day, he gets the car fixed, he gets his mail back together, goes out, and finishes his mail route. That is dedication right there. He deserves a lot of time off and a lot of workers' compensation. He also knows what kind of mail everyone gets. He knows, oh, if I'm missing something, this person should have it. He understands where people are at most points in their day. He's good at his job. He's not perfect because of all the environmental factors, and he is a little old, so while he's not the fastest, he gets around. He does get the job done. Also, this is a fun fact. This doesn't have to do anything with his day job, but every year when the Cappytown Gourmet Race comes back and everyone enters their own cars or enters under like aliases and names, his alter ego is Steppenwolf, and he's a legendary speed demon motorcyclist. Has nothing to do with him delivering mail, but that's kind of rad. So yeah, overall, I am giving the Cappytown mail system, or more specifically, Melman the Mailman, a 20 in resilience for all of the injuries he has sustained, 15 in reliability, 15 in relevance, and a 5 in reach. Only because he's delivering to Cappytown. That's it. Overall score, 60. Not bad. Above that, a kind of left field pick when looking at the entirety of this list, and we're getting into some weirder picks at this point moving forward, is the Witch Delivery System, or the Witch Delivery Service, mind you, from Kiki's Delivery Service. For anyone who's not seen Kiki's Delivery Service, it's cute. It's really adorable. It's about a small witch girl who finds her way in the world, and she's finally old enough to go off and study in a different town and learn her own trade as a witch. And it's a really cute coming-of-age story, and Kiki discovers that her only real talent as a witch is she's really, really good at flying on her broom. So when she gets to her town of choice and she settles down with her cat and finds a place to stay, she realizes that she can run a pretty good witch delivery service. So her and the very nice pregnant baker that takes her in for the time being of her stay help her run this system. However, she gets into a lot of mishaps. She kind of loses some mail, destroys some of her deliveries, and then at one point she loses her ability to fly because she's not feeling up to delivering for a while, and she kind of loses her spark for magic. She's just not motivated by it anymore, and it takes the almost death of her new friend / childhood crush kind of character to get her back into the spark of flying to rescue him and then resume her events as the town's delivery witch. You don't really see the height of her delivery service's functionality during the movie, but it's implied in a letter that she writes her parents at the end of the movie that she's very happy where she is and the delivery service is doing great. So I can only imagine that the Prime Witch delivery service is much better than we see in the movie. So I'm going to assume a higher estimate than what I probably should give Kiki, but I'm going to give her a higher estimate because I like this movie and I like Kiki. Yes, I'm a little biased. I'm giving her overall a 10 in reliability, a 20 in relevance, a 20 in resilience, and a 10 in reach, for an overall score of 60. Tying with the mail system from Cappytown, but I think these are perfect right next to each other's score. Above that, another oddball pick is the Planet Express from Futurama. I know I said I didn't want to do Earth-based mail systems, but this is a long time in the future, and it's delivering past Earth. Yes, it is Earth soil that it's based on, but it's no longer the Earth as we know it. Mail has evolved to such a fantastical science fiction point that I don't count it as Earth-based mail. The Futurama's Planet Express has impressive clients, and it's had prestigious contracts in its existence. And most of their competitors have tried to buy them out, sabotage their efforts, or just take over hostily, showing that the Planet Express has a lot of potential. It's constantly boasted that it's one of the few services out there that's willing to deliver into the most dangerous and hostile environments in the universe. And it's even had its one delivery ship flown to the end of the universe to observe the next universe over before. That ship can make the distance. The crew can't. The crew gets distracted a lot. We know these characters. They get distracted a lot. They buy into their own schemes, whether that be selling robotic children to Robot Devil or getting mixed up in being an out-of-place man in the far-flung future as one Fry is. And of course, the amount of times there is relationship issues among the crew. With all of that getting in the way, the real big problem that the Planet Express has is themselves. So I give it a really good score. I give it a 25 in reach, a 20 in relevance, a 20 in resilience, but it's the only thing on this list to get a 0 in reliability. They get the job done sometimes, but not enough to actually bet on them, at least in their current form. But I am giving it a 65 because of its impressive history. It's just in a rough spot right now. Above that, the 11th highest on our list is Kingdom Hearts. More specifically, the Moogle Mail. I like Kingdom Hearts a lot. I've played Kingdom Hearts since I was a kid, and it is a goofy story with a lot of plot holes and irrelevant details. For those of you who are not aware, it's if Final Fantasy was bought by Disney. You can imagine the plot just by me telling you that. Our main protagonist, Sora, is the wielder of the Keyblade, this magical sword that can fight off the darkness, which is this amorphous kind of primordial force that spawns creatures called Heartless. And then I'm just going to stop there because it gets really complicated really quick. All you need to know is that he is a classic himbo of a character that wants to save his friends, and he's a champion of the light. One of the systems that helps him along this way is the Moogle Mail system. You as a player can turn in different sets of synthesis materials and postcards to the Moogle Mail, and you will get prizes back, or you can get items through them. And the great thing about the Moogle Mail is every time you turn a postcard, you're automatically getting something back. Every time you send something to the mail, it is sent to every possible destination where a Moogle shop is. A real Moogle shop. You can access the Moogle shop on almost any world in the Kingdom Hearts universe, but the actual shops is where you get most of the main things. Technically, they are sending mail to the projection shops or stalls that are on other worlds, but only Sora can interact with them, not the denizens of that world for strange reasons. So they're really only located on like 3 different worlds in the entire universe. So they're not a wide-reaching system. However, it's always fast. It's always like able to deliver whatever it gets. Whatever you want, it gets to you instantaneously. All you need to do is exchange a little bit of money. That is money spelled M-U-N-N-Y. I'm not kidding. The Moogles are a great little species, but who knows? If they went a bit more universe-wide with their actual physical stalls and they catered to everyone besides Sora and the denizens of Twilight Town and Traverse Town and Hollow Bastion, maybe they'd be higher up on this list. I give them a bizarre score to almost match the equally bizarre plot and world that is Kingdom Hearts. I'm giving them a 22 in reliability, an 18 in relevance, a 15 in resilience, and a 10 in reach, for a score of 65. 12th highest on the list, we have Legend of Zelda again, but a different Legend of Zelda game. I know it's the same franchise again, But every iteration of those games is a different Hyrule with different systems. And say what you want about Legend of Zelda or by Nintendo as a whole, as you've seen, there's been a lot of Nintendo on this list. They care about their postal workers in these games. The postmen from Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, I'm lumping them together, get the 12th spot. And the reason for that is they can fly, and they fly everywhere. They go all over Hyrule, or in Hourglass's sake, the Great Sea. They are able to reach any mailbox on the world map at any point. They are always delivering letters of great importance, or prizes, or rupees, the in-game currency. Anything you need can get to you through this service, and people seem to like them because you can find some mailboxes in some pretty strange places. Temples, towns, uncharted islands. If there's one on an uncharted island, that's impressive, because that means it was either put there by them, knowing Link was going to be there, or something happened to the people on that island, but the only thing they left behind was a mailbox. Which means maybe we should be afraid of them, actually, now that I think about it. But regardless of possible island genocide that they may have caused, these postmen are phenomenal at their job. They can fly anywhere. They are delivering mail even when the worst monsters and demons imaginable have started to destroy Hyrule multiple times. The only issue that you get with these guys is they're really dramatic when they show up to actually deliver the mail. They're always exhausted, they're out of breath, and the one from Hourglass insists on reading your mail out loud, and that's just uncomfy. So I'm giving the two of them together an overall score of 20 in reach, 20 in relevance, 20 in resilience, and 10 in reliability. A good solid score of 70. 13th highest, another kind of left field pick. We have Avatar: The Last Airbender. And specifically, we have the Omashu cart system. For those of you who do not understand what I am saying when I mention Avatar: The Last Airbender and the Omashu cart system, now is your opportunity to stop listening to this video and go watch all of Avatar. And then come back and you'll understand everything that I'm talking about, because it's one of the greatest television series of all time, and everyone should see it. So if you haven't, now is your chance to pause the video. Or the Spotify recording, wherever you're listening to us from. Now that you're back, the Omashu cart system is a fantastic example of smart mail systems, actually. It's low tech, yes, it's not flashy, but it gets the job done. The workers are outstanding. They work around the clock, and they're smart. They only really stop to sleep or exchange shifts, and they use earthbending to move the mail carts from the bottom of the hills of Omashu to the top of the mail chute system, where they are filled with various goods and mail and services, and they are slid down these massive sandstone slides to the next mail station, where the mail is distributed to the nearby houses and businesses in that section of the city. It is efficient, it runs night and day, the workers are master earthbenders, and Omashu is one of the greatest cities consistently throughout all of the Avatar universe. The only real issues is that every once in a while the system does get damaged, but that's usually by the acting Avatar and their band of friends. But practically by the next day, the mail chutes are fixed again. And King Bumi, one of the greatest monarchs to ever preside over Omashu, was the one who helped keep its existence going well into his old age, partially because of its efficiency, partially because he and Aang used to use it as a slide, and he wanted to keep that still running for whenever he wanted to use it. With this fantastic mail system in place, the only flaw that it really has, other than the Avatar factor, is not all of Earth Kingdom uses it. If Ba Sing Se was using this, Ba Sing Se would be a much better place. If the rest of Earth Kingdom was using this, maybe they could have actually gotten supplies across their entirety of their borders during the 100 Years' War. I'm just saying, this would have been a huge help for Avatar and company and their Earth Kingdom allies. But overall, I'm giving the Omashu card system a 25 in relevance, a 25 in reliability, a 20 in resilience, and a reach of 5, only because it's just in Omashu. And as great of a city it is, it's not huge. Now, before I get to our top 3, I do want to make an honorable mention. Again, I know I gave the Good Mailman Award out earlier, but I want to make an honorable mention to another fantastic fictional postal service that I found. I technically couldn't count it as part of the main list because it's Earth, but it's Earth in the past, which I know I did the far future with Futurama, but that was so fantastical and not even resembling today's postal services at all that it felt appropriate to include it. I'm giving our honorable mention slot to Red Dead Redemption as a franchise. Their postal services are very unique. They're reliable. The player has to use them to get rid of bounties. They get bounties from them. They actually can store their money there. And they're all over the place. They're at every major settlement and city on both of those games. It's worth it to use this system if you play through the games at any point. And it's a vital system to keep you, if you're going the outlaw route, to able to keep yourself from getting constantly arrested by the U.S. Marshals. They're efficient. You can get mail no matter where you are, whether you're hidden in your camp or staying at an inn for the night in a couple towns over. You actually see train cars with mail in them from time to time during gameplay. It's a unique, very appropriate system. The only problem is it is Earth-based, and it's only 200 years prior to present day. Not even 100, 150. So, because of its closeness to modern day times, and it's not really that different, it's just a earlier version of what we have today, I can't count it, but I am going to give it an honorable mention, and I gave it 20s across the board, because while it, yes, was only localized to the United States, it was pretty good for its time, and it was pretty well represented in this game, but sadly I can't count it. But now we've made it to our top 3 examples. And I think that they're going to be strange. I don't think that a lot of people thought of these picks. But I digress. Our third place once again goes to a repeat on the franchise, but I said before my reasons, I won't have to say them again. I'm giving another spot to The Legend of Zelda. And this one goes to the postman from Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask is my favorite Legend of Zelda game. And yes, that automatically makes this sound biased, but hear me out. He has the tightest schedule of any mailman in fictional existence. And he completes his less than logical mail route every single day, 3 days in a row, forever, every time, on time. He thinks in terms of seconds, and he has a whole mini-game dedicated to stopping a clock on 10 seconds without looking at it. And if you successfully do this, he not only rewards you with a piece of heart used to upgrade your life cap total, which means that he definitely has max health, he definitely has max stamina, but he also commends you with saying you have the prime reflexes of an expert mailman. He seems to be the only employee in the Clocktown Postal Service, but he does have a postmaster he does mention. And I don't know if he works by himself because he's just the singular guy who wants to work there, or he's so dedicated that he said, "Boss, let me take care of it. Another worker would get in my way." And I have reason to believe that it's the latter of the two options. He is able to make it all over Clocktown, and you even have to keep track of his whereabouts in your journal, your in-game journal, to actually figure out where he's going to be at any time. And it's very interesting to see that schedule play out. He's able to make these incredible distances on time every time. He actually even goes as far as dedication into his job, where on the third day, where Hyrule is... Well, not Hyrule, Termina, my mistake. This is one of the few Legend of Zelda games that doesn't take place in Hyrule. It takes place in Termina, which is also implied to be all in Link's head, because Link may have died at the beginning of this game, but I digress. In all of Termina, he's able to keep going, and on the last day, he remains in Clocktown as the moon crashes into the earth, saying that he must complete his final mail route for the day. It's only after his postmaster threatens to fire him if he doesn't escape and get to safety, that he leaves, and you find him in the final hour of the game, if you don't reset, standing at the outskirts of Termina, holding his mail hat, and he will give it to you as a sign of, well, if Termina gets destroyed, I guess I won't be needing this. You should continue on my work if you go somewhere else, and maybe we'll run into each other again. He asks the player, just in case, if you go somewhere else, keep up the mail system for me. Maybe I'll start my own. It's this passionate character that goes above and beyond for the sake of mail alone. So I have to give him third place. I give him a 25 in reliability for his punctuality, 25 in relevance because every member of Termina knows his name, a 25 in resilience because if you're going to deliver mail as the world is destroyed by the gravitational pull of the moon, that takes guts. Only low score is 10 in reach because he only delivers to Clocktown and the surrounding area. I give him an overall score of 85. Second place goes to the Destiny franchise. Now, for those of you who do not know what Destiny is, it is a fantastic game that came out from the studio called Bungie. Bungie is famous for the creation of Halo. Destiny's story is a bit complex as well, but the gist that you need to understand is it's set in the future where this mysterious machine god has taken favor in the last of humanity and the last of a few other surviving races that live on Earth, and has bestowed them with cosmic light that fuels these extraordinary abilities so that they can better combat the threats that encroach upon the last city of civilization for mankind. And these include magic-wielding space bugs, omniscient time-traveling robots, Martians that are built like tanks and are only bred for war, and a variety of other cosmic horror-style enemies that you face. You essentially play as what is called a Guardian, which is basically a Space Ranger. It is your job to manage your equipment and collect better and exotic pieces of armor and gear and firearms so that you can better combat these threats yourself. And as you play the game, you are known as this legendary Guardian who has defeated gods and monstrosities alike, all in the name of the last city. Now, why do I tell you all this? Well, it's a game that is based on loot. You go out, you grind activities, and you get stronger gear every time you go out. And as time has progressed, because this is an active game, this is an online active multiplayer game, the power levels get adjusted, and new seasons come out, and new events come out with more gear. And it's kind of a never-ending cycle of play the game, get more gear, wait for the next season, play the game, get more gear, wait for the next season. I love this game series because it's one of the best shooters I've ever played. But there are times where you might be on a mission and you don't have the right set of weapons or you don't have the right set of armor to do the job. So you can go into your menu and swap them out for what you're carrying. But let's say you're filled all of your inventory slots and you just can't carry the gun you need. The companion app that gets paired with Destiny allows you to use the postmaster at the tower, which is the base of operations in the last city for Guardians, to transfer weapons and armor from your Guardian to your vault at the tower outpost, and then the mailbot, Caddy44, takes the weapons and armor you have stored that you want, converts them to a data signal file, and then sends them all over the solar system as you're out on the front lines facing humanity's greatest threats. And that telemetry data is then transferred into matter itself, the matter of whatever armor or weapon you need for the situation. It is near instantaneous, data transferable to matter realization mail service. And what's better, besides sending gear both ways, let's say you finish a mission and you got gear that was dropped and you didn't see it and you kept progressing through the mission and it was left behind. Caddy will send drones out to wherever you were to do a security cleanup sweep, and it will find your leftover gear and items that you left behind and will convert them to data engrams, which will be stored in the postmaster vaults for you to collect when you get back to the tower after your spaceflight. And you might think, oh, that's incredibly efficient. It's made even more efficient given the number of threats that you have to face as a player. The solar system is not a safe place for people who do not have light-based powers in this universe. Civilians are always in danger, and if anything, you get put up against some very serious threats. Like I mentioned, magic-wielding bugs, and time-traveling murderous robots, and the Cabal, which are the Martian soldiers. They're kind of the least threatening, but every once in a while they do something cool. But I digress. Sending mail drones out during this horrible time for humanity takes guts. And the fact that all of those drones return every single time, and Caddy 44, the mail postmaster droid, is able to do their job this efficiently, speaks volumes. It is incredibly efficient, and if it wasn't for Caddy 44, the Traveler's Guardians would not be able to face the greatest threats in the solar system efficiently. I give the Tower Postmaster system a reach of 25, a reliability of 25, a resilience of 25, and a relevance of 20. I only give it a 20 in relevance. It doesn't get that perfect score just because it caters much more to the Guardians, not necessarily the civilians of the city. It certainly does its job for the civilians of the city, but it's focused on the Guardians more than the civilians. And while I did complain that that was a problem in earlier mail systems, where it was focusing on elite versus the common man, the Guardians aren't really the elite. They're the only hope for the common man. So they kind of need their packages before you do. So all of this, we've gotten to our number one spot, and we've been through a lot of different franchises, a lot of different weird picks. What could possibly be at number one? Well, the number one spot goes to a team of mail carriers that do it all. From the depths of space to the insides of some of the most comedical overlords that this world sees. I give my number one spot to the Super Mario franchise's Toad Brigade. The Toad Brigade is kind of scary when you think about how efficient they are. They're able to deliver things to the depths of space, to the inside of Bowser's digestive tract, to near black holes, to far-off lands, to 3D to 2D worlds. You name it. They've been there. If it exists in the world of Mario, a Toad has carried mail to that corner of the universe. They are incredible. And they're always fast. You always get whatever items you need. And the mail you get is sent from all corners as well. It's not like they're just going out to meet Mario. They're actually doing mail behind the scenes. You see mail carriers in certain Mario games wandering around Toad Town or the Mushroom Kingdom. You see different people say, oh, I got a letter in the mailbox today. You see homes with mailboxes in front of them. It's almost like everyone uses the mail every day in the Mushroom Kingdom. It's a relevant mail system. They're able to deliver to Mario at a whim, and they cover most of the Mushroom Kingdom's general populace every day. Granted, they're not delivering out to Bowser or any of his minions, but Mushroom Kingdom citizenship and all. Might as well be a different country. With the incredible fast delivery speeds, the delivery of all kinds of items from power-ups, to gear, to armor, to some games, to extra lives, and even stars themselves, the most powerful source of energy and magical ability in this universe, and the delivery from locations both unique and confined, much like the countless prison cells that Peach has gotten herself thrown into. The Toad Brigade never fails to aid Mario, and the Mushroom Kingdom is always able to call on them to assist the populace in its fight for freedom from King Koopa Bowser and his armies. It's not as glorious as some of the systems on our list. It's not as fantastical, but it's certainly the most efficient. You can never, ever expect a Toad to fail his mission. And with that, I bring this episode to a close. I have applied a real-life Postal Service survey to several fantastic and less than stellar examples of pop culture's greatest and worst postal systems. If there was a system that I left out, please let us know here at EIF. We love hearing feedback from you guys. And I believe that next week you'll be hearing from myself, Matt, and a special guest as we discuss on the main episode of the podcast, Marvel's Phase 2. What was the successes that led to it? What were some of the flops that came with it? And what did it pave the way for in the future? If you're a Marvel fan, you already know the answers to these questions. But even so, tune in next week as we give you the second main episode of Season 2 of the Everything is Fine podcast. Cannot speak tonight. But I thank you all for sitting here and listening to me for this past hour. I hope that someone somewhere learned a little thing about the difficulties that postal workers go through, both in real life and in fiction. And until the next time, just remember, no matter how crazy life gets, everything is fine.